Welcome, everyone, to the Bracket U, a bracket podcast by Delphi Bracketology. I'm your host, Brian Tonsoni. Joining me soon will be senior Logan Smith. He's working on a little technical difficulty behind the scenes to get his camera working. If we don't get his camera working, we'll just use his voice. But this is the first of several podcasts that we will be bringing you to talk about what we're seeing in the bracket world, trying to rank teams 1 through 68 to predict the NCAA tournament coming up. We welcome any of you that listen live, or if you listen on Apple or Spotify afterwards. You can find our work at DelphiBracketology.com. We update the seed list almost daily now. We put out a bracket maybe once or twice with the matchups. The seed list is what you really want to look at for your teams, but that's DelphiBracketology.com, and you could ask us any questions you want on the X. Our handle is at Delphi Brackets. We love to interact with you there. If you see us at any of the games, Purdue, Illinois, Indiana, Butler, come ask us, any questions that you have about bracketology. If you are here live, there is a chat. You can ask questions. We will be more than happy to answer them here live if you are joining us in that avenue. I'm going to bring Logan on. It looks like we can't get his camera work, but I do believe we have his audio. Logan,
Yes.
how you doing tonight, bud?
I'm doing good. How about you, Coach T?
Good. Always good to have veterans here on the show. You're missing, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're missing a pretty good-looking athlete here at Delphi High School and a four-year member of the Bracketology Club. And Logan, as we get ready to talk brackets here today, what is the initial thought as you look at this year's bracketing process? What are you looking at? What are you thinking? What teams are on your watch list?
If I'm being honest, Coach, it's been a tough year for the bracket. A lot of mid-major teams coming into the bracket and a lot of teams that are hard to place with their wins and their bad losses, I should say, as well. Strength of schedule definitely plays a part in that, and it's been a tough year, I'd say. Still got a lot left.
We'll talk about that tough year coming up because the 8 seed line through the 11 seed line is a jumbled mess right now. But for those of us who are just listening in or need a reminder, we're a high school club at Delphi High School in Delphi, Indiana. We've been doing this since 2012. We have a group of about 20 that meet on Thursdays and Fridays. I have several of these young men in class. Sometimes when they're supposed to be doing work, they take a look at the bracket. It's always good to have multiple eyes on the bracket. Logan is one that'll text me or email me during the week or even the weekend, hey, why don't we move this team? Or this team lost, and I think it changes their outlook. And guys like Logan are hard to replace, so we're looking forward to having a good run here the next 4 weeks with Logan before we send him on his way graduating. But Logan, let's talk a little bit about our number 1 seeds. We'll go through our top 4 seeds and then hit that bubble to give our listeners a quick view. We have Michigan, Duke, Arizona, and UConn on our number 1 seeds. And Logan, I don't think there's anyone there that could argue that those are the 4 best teams currently in NCAA basketball. Would you agree?
I would agree with that.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I would just agree with that. I believe that even though with Arizona's 2 recent losses this past week, I still think they're up in that top 4 range, that 1 seed line, especially with them being both 2 high 1A quad 1A losses, I should say.
Yeah, the Arizona may have fallen out of the number 1 seed, but they're still firmly on that 1 seed line. If there is a team that's likely to fall out right now, it's probably UConn. And the number 2 seeds, we got a game tonight between Houston and Iowa State. Illinois and Purdue locally also with the big game. They play Michigan tomorrow night, so things could change depending on that. Our 2 seeds. When you look at Houston, Iowa State, does the winner of that push UConn to get into that 1 seed in your thought?
I think if Houston wins the game, I think it opens up a possibility for them to be on that 1 seed line based on how Houston has been playing recently and that top 4 net, it's hard to beat.
Yeah, and We'll get to talking about the wins above bubble, the magic formula that appeared last year, but seemed to have a lot of pull in the committee room. Right now, Houston's sitting at 5, Connecticut sitting at 3. A win tonight by Houston could improve that number as well. But they're definitely the team. I think if Iowa State beats Houston, I think they just flip-flop on our 2 seed. I'm not ready to push Iowa State up to the 1 seed line. Moving to our 3 seeds, we have Florida, who's making a big push. Kansas, Texas Tech had a big win at Arizona, and then Nebraska's hanging on to our 3 seed. Anything on that line that catches your eye, Logan?
I think it's really close between Nebraska and Vanderbilt. Actually, for that battle in between the 3 and the 4 seed line, um, with Vanderbilt's wins recently and Nebraska sliding back a little bit, I think it's close between those 2 teams. But 3 seed line, I like Texas Tech over Kansas with the most recent win by Texas Tech over Arizona. I feel like that was a really good win. One of Arizona's only 2 losses coming to Texas Tech this past week, and Kansas did just get blown out by Iowa State. I think that's neck and neck as well, but Florida, after starting off slow, has really bounced back.
So Logan brings up a great point. It's why he's one of our better bracketologists. This is exactly what will happen. We'll take a look at Kansas and Texas Tech, and then maybe we flip them tomorrow, even though those teams aren't playing tonight. So this bracket, and if you're watching on YouTube right now live, you're seeing our spreadsheet. We have Kansas above Texas Tech, so that'll be a point of discussion with our guys tomorrow, that possibility of Texas Tech versus Kansas. And that's what gives us a little bit of an advantage here at Delphi Bracketology. We have people like Logan. I have some sophomores that will email me, hey, let's think about moving this team, and then we all do a deep dive into those 2. So it kind of simulates what the committee will do, and I think that gives us the reason that we've had some success. Our 4 seeds are Vanderbilt, Gonzaga, Michigan State, and Virginia. And again, if you're watching live, you can see that. You can also see our 5 and 6 seed lines. I want to point out to everyone that on our 6th seed line is BYU and North Carolina. They both have had very important injuries happen, and we will be watching them to see how they play without some key players in their lineup. And so we moved them to the 6th seed line just as a holding place right now until we see that. As you look, Logan, between Vanderbilt and North Carolina, our 4, 5, and 6 seed lines, is there anything else that you think we might need to discuss as far as moving teams?
Off first glance, everything looks pretty good. Something worth mentioning, I think it's close between Gonzaga and Michigan State. I haven't seen Michigan State scores recently, so I'd have to look into that more. But yeah, talking about North Carolina's injuries, that with Ethan Wilson, I believe, right?
It's a Wilson. I forget his
Wilson.
first. Caleb Wilson, I think. It's Caleb Wilson.
Okay. I was thinking of the student Ethan Wilson, but
yeah.
But yeah, it's tough for North Carolina, but I still think they're a competitor, especially beating Duke recently. I look for them to be on the rise still, even with Caleb Wilson out.
Yeah, I think they're going to be no lower than a 7 seed. But as you look at our 6 seeds, whether you go look at our seed list or our most recent bracket, I think our most recent bracket was last Friday. Those are some pretty good teams capable of winning several games in the NCAA tournament. Those teams will move as games are won and lost. Probably the toughest in that area is St. John's Louisville with anyone on the 6th seed line, Kentucky, Tennessee. You'll see some variance there. The tough part of the bracket starts getting into seed lines 25 through 31, maybe the 7, 8 seed line with a team like St. Louis and Utah State. So, Logan, when we look at teams that come from smaller conferences that don't have the number of quad 1 wins but have really good metrics, have outstanding records, St. Louis 23-1, Utah State 21-3. How do you personally look at those teams compared to the Tennessees, the North Carolinas that have a lot more opportunities to get those wins?
Honestly, Coach, I think this is really hard for me to look at. It's really easy for me to overlook these small mid-major teams, even with the records they have, uh, compared to teams like Wisconsin or Villanova, who might have more quad 1 and 2 wins compared to only
Yeah.
4 for St. Louis in those uh,
Yep.
quad 1 and 2.
First two quads.
Mhm. But I think with how St. Louis and Utah State are both playing right now, both 17 and 23 net, I think it's hard not to put them lower or higher
Yeah.
because I think they're good where they're at.
Yeah, I
They've
like him at the 7 seed line. Would you think that I would be correct in saying that the highest they probably could get is a 6, maybe, and a low of an 8? I think you're going to see St. Louis and Utah State on a 6, 7, or 8 seed line. Would you agree with that?
I would I think it just comes down to what the committee thinks about the teams and how they play out the rest of their season. I think that's going to be a tough one when we come to guess our bracket.
Yeah, those teams always give us a little bit of difficulty with where to place them. Memphis caught us last year with a 50 net. They got moved up to a 5. I think we had them as a 6. So these are teams that are really difficult for us to put in the appropriate spot. And while we're at it, St. Louis and Utah State are in. There's no way, even if they lose in their conference tournament, that they won't be selected. So there's a couple conferences where you could see some bid thieves, which knock out some of the teams on our bubble. So keep that in mind. And then I would like to share with the people who are watching. We do a friend of Delphi Bracketology, friend of our Assembly Call podcast for the Indiana University basketball team, Howie Shack, created something for us to compare teams, and I think you're seeing that now on the screen, where we can put 4 teams or even 8 teams together and pull the number of quad 1 wins, 1 and 2 wins combined, the winning percentage for quad 1 and 2, all of the metrics, the WAB, the strength of record, Ken Palm, and those. We can pull that, and then green means that team is better in that category. Red means they're deficient in that area, and you can kind of get a look of comparing 4 teams side by side instead of going back and forth and just looking at one team sheet to the next team sheet. And what that does is put these teams in order, and then we go back and look at number of wins and quality of wins, because wins are the number one determining factor in who gets our bids and who moves up and all of those things. So I just wanted to kind of share out our thanks to Howie Shack for putting that together. We use that now all the time when we have questions between like 7 and 8 seed lines. We'll take the last 2 7 seeds and the first 2 8 seeds, put them in that comparison, and then really dive in. It gives us a chance to look at all of the data together on one sheet, which makes the process a whole lot better. So you're watching Bracket U from Delphi Bracketology. We just went over our top 4 seeds, talked about some teams in the 6, 7 seed line that are a little bit difficult, have some injuries. If you are watching live, put a question in the comment section if you want, and we'll try to answer that. Share this with people. We're going to try to go live Mondays and Thursdays until the tournament is finalized. With updates, even on the conference tournament. I am not attending the Big Ten conference tournament this year, but I will be home and able to podcast during some of the evening games on Thursday to keep people up to date. So, Logan, everyone wants to know who we have in and who we have out, and really, Iowa sitting at 32 all the way down to our last team, which is St. Mary's 46. Those are razor thin. I think that's you hit it right on the head with your opening comments, that these are difficult choices to make because every team has something positive and every team has something negative. So my first question to you, Logan, as you look at Iowa through St. Mary's, what do you prefer to see? Do you prefer to see good metrics, the net, the wins above bubble, or do you prefer to see large number of wins in the green column, which is quad 1, or a lot of quad 1 and 2 wins? If you were on the committee, what would you emphasize?
Yeah, looking through Iowa all the way through St. Mary's, I think looking at a little bit of quad one wins. Say we go look at Auburn. Yes, they are 4-10 in quad one, but that is 14 quad one games played. So I don't think the committee is going to look down on the 11 losses per se, and they could even lose more games. But I think it's good to look at the quad one wins, but it's also hard when there are teams like St. Mary's who are in the West Coast Conference, don't have a whole lot of competition per se. We have Gonzaga.
Mm-hmm.
I think Santa Clara is on our 11 seed line as well. I think we'd also look at the net and strength of record. I feel like that's something that is good to look at. And also the WOB. That is
Yeah.
key factor that, as you said last year, top 50 all made it into the tournament with some exceptions. I feel like that's something we really need to pay attention to this year and just keep
Yeah.
focusing on.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. Also, the top 40 teams all got top 10 seeds. Now, will that continue? There are new committee members, and the trends are trends until they're no longer trends. But that is going to be interesting. Those metrics have gained steam over the time that we've done Delphi bracketology. And Logan, you're absolutely right in bringing up from Iowa down. There are teams with limited quad one wins and limited quality wins, but have really good metrics. Starting with Iowa, they're 2-5 in quad one, 5-1 in quad two, have a quad three loss, but they're 27 in the net, and they're 37 in wins above bubble. You average that out, and that's an 8 seed. But they don't have the wins that some teams have even further down. Auburn has 3 really nice wins. Texas A&M, TCU, Georgia. They have TCU has 5 quad 1 wins, but they have a quad 4 loss, a quad 3 loss, and a quad 2 loss. They're 3-4 on the road. They're 45 in the net. They're 44, 45 in the wins above bubble. So the tough thing, I think you hit it on the head, is what do we look at? Do we look at metrics first, wins second? Do we look at wins first, metrics second? I think it's probably somewhere in a combination of that, and that's why we like that sorting tool that we were sharing easier. But boy, I tell you what, Iowa needs to win games, or they could possibly be out. Auburn needs to win games, they could be out. Like you said, they have some good wins, and but all of these teams that when you go to our seed list on X or you go to Delphi Bracketology and you look at the 8 seed line down, no one is safe. I think the top 7 seeds are safe, but no one's safe from a 3-game losing streak, 4-game losing streak, or being passed by a team below them that wins 3 or 4, including a couple quad 1 wins. If SMU goes 4-1 down the stretch, they're going to move from a 10, maybe up to a 9, maybe up to an 8. There's going to be a lot of movement from Iowa all the way down. So, Logan, everyone wants to know our last 4 in: San Diego State, TCU, Georgia, St. Mary's. You have St. Mary's and San Diego State who have very low wins but good metrics, and you have TCU and Georgia who have better quad 1 and quad 2 records but don't have maybe some of the metrics. So right there is the divide. You can throw Santa Clara in, who is one of our bye teams that is close to being out. San Diego State, TCU, Georgia, St. Mary's. If you had to pick one to say is out, who would you pick to move out?
That's a tough one. I would have to go with San Diego State, if I'm being completely honest. Let me pull this up real quick. I'd like to see.
I don't think they have a win, Logan, against a tournament team.
They do not.
And I don't think St. Mary's does either.
I think it's got to be San Diego State. I hate to hate on the strength of schedule that is pretty good for I believe Mountain West team, and
yeah,
but St. Mary's has got better metrics with that 26 in net. I can't go against that.
So that's the kicker right there with St. Mary's, right? St. Mary's, only one team under 30 has been left out, and that was Indiana State, and there were some bid thieves that kind of maybe took their spot, some upsets in conference tournaments. but again, that's a trend until a trend is not followed through. Indiana State at least had 2 quad 1 wins. St. Mary's has 0. That's the difficult thing for me right now with St. Mary's is they have 0 quad 1 wins, and I think you have to beat someone in that quad 1 in order to be in. But if we look at it, Miami of Ohio, who's an automatic qualifier, they have 0 quad 1 wins, probably going to be an 11 seed if not higher. Santa Clara has 1. San Diego State has 1. St. Mary's has 0. You go a step higher, UCLA and Indiana have 2. USC has 1. So you have a lot of teams with low numbers of quad 1 wins, but their metrics are better. And then you have TCU, Georgia with the wins, 7 quad 1 and 2 wins for TCU, 8 quad 1 and 2 wins for Georgia, and Missouri, who is our first team out right now, has 6 combined wins. So San Diego State, we just moved in this afternoon. We could very easily move them back out. And again, that's another example to our listeners about how different sets of eyes will force us into a deeper dive. I'm not sure you can settle the bubble, especially with games. Every game matters, and we always talk about it not being a scoreboard, Logan, where just because a team loses tonight means you don't move them down automatically. But when they're razor thin, a result really might affect the seeding. So you want San Diego State out. I'm going to make you put a team in. We got Missouri, Ohio State, New Mexico, VCU, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia as our first 6 out. Maybe Seton Hall, California, and Oklahoma State have a fighting chance because their records are halfway decent. But of those 6 teams, Missouri, Ohio State, New Mexico, VCU, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia, who are you putting in if you want to take San Diego State out?
That's a tough one, if I'm being completely honest. Nothing sticks out to me, but I know I have to pick a team because I said bring a team out.
You could change your mind and keep San Diego State in. That's always a possibility.
Let me look back at. I might have to change my mind here.
And while he's thinking about it, this is what we do when I have kids in class, or we have our homeroom and I can have a meeting, or we have our Friday, what we call pick class, where we have all the bracketologists in for 45 minutes. We simply do this. When they say we want to move a team up or down, then I'm like, why? And prove it, and then people will argue back and forth, and that's exactly what the committee does. And then we will make a decision or go to a vote, very similar, again, to the committee. I know who I would pick if I had to move a team up, but I'm not very the bubble's always a little ugly at this point.
I mean, I like Missouri's win against Texas A&M recently, but I can't get around that 66 net.
What's their wins above bubble? I'll take a look quick here. They're 46 in wins above bubble, 66 in the net. They're under 500 in quads 1 and 2 at 6 and 8, but they do have good wins.
They do.
So here. You keep thinking. I'm going to talk, and if I help you make a decision, so you have to decide between San Diego State and St. Mary's, teams that don't have the quantity of wins. Missouri has the quantity of wins, but San Diego State and St. Mary's has played better basketball statistically or metrically than Missouri has. That's just going to be tough for us all year long, and I think that's going to be tough because you have 12 committee members. If 7 of them like the number of wins you get, then Missouri goes in. If they like how you played and you at least have a win or 2, then a team like Santa Clara, San Diego State, and St. Mary's is going to be in better shape, and we simply do not know what the makeup of that committee is and what they prefer. I think I prefer metrics. I think you have to have wins, but if you have a win or 2 and good metrics, I think you're going to be in. So that's why I'm okay with San Diego State and Santa Clara, and I'm not okay with St. Mary's. I don't think you can get an at-large bid if you have 0 quad 1 wins. That's why I'm not an Ohio State fan yet. and I think Missouri doesn't have the metrics, even though they have the quantity. So that's where I'm thinking. I don't know if that makes any difference in if you want to keep San Diego State in or not.
I think I'm going to keep them. I can't get around
And
Missouri.
Yeah. Missouri, I want to put Missouri in so bad. I even had them up maybe on the back end of the 10 seed line at one point in the last few days. But I think you have to have wins and you have to play well. I think you could get in without the number of wins and playing well because of the conference or how you scheduled, or if you had too tough a schedule. I think your point about Auburn was really good. I learned something from you tonight that 4-10 looks like Auburn can't play against good competition, but how many teams played 14 top-level teams? So are you punishing Auburn? They've shown that they can beat some, maybe not everyone, but then that should be an 8 or 9 seed. I think Auburn is somewhat worthy. So I'm going to take a deep dive after we're done today and look more at Auburn a little more favorably. I thought you made a really good point there, but it's difficult, isn't it, between teams with good metrics and low wins and teams with so metrics and that's going to be the ultimate decision. If you have a team on the bubble, you better hope your committee member has what your team. I'm an IU guy. I want metrics because IU only has 4 quad 1 and 2 wins. I want someone to be pushing the metrics for IU's to be in the team. Any other thoughts about the bubble, Logan?
Yeah, looking at Missouri, they do have a tough 2-game stretch this week, playing both Vanderbilt Wednesday and Arkansas Saturday. So I think it really comes down to see how they play this week. It's going to be tough if they get 1 win, 1 loss, but I think if they get both wins, I think they should be in. Both losses, obviously, out, but that's something to keep
if they
an eye
get
on.
both wins. Yeah, another good point. If they get both wins, they're at 5, and I think that 5 is too much of a number to look away when you're comparing teams with 0, 1, and 2. Right. I don't know that they'll move up. If you have a team with 2 quad 1 wins and good metrics, I don't think Missouri passes them, but I do think 5 quad 1 wins might be good enough. And if they win, hopefully their net gets into the 50s or something. We've had teams with 66 net in before. So I don't think that's impossible for Missouri to get in. But one of the things for our listeners is you have to have 68 teams. And I get a lot on X, or we get a lot on X is, why are you in love with Santa Clara? Why are you in love with St. Mary's? Why are you in love in Georgia? Well, because we don't have teams that we really feel comfortable putting in for them right now. And you're right, the schedule will play out. So, Logan, as we wrap up our first edition of Bracket U for 2026, as you look at this, do you have a favorite team, and how do you feel about their seeding, or do you have a team that you really want to watch because you think they'll move either up or down on our seed list?
Yeah, I have a team that I want to watch. I think Virginia is a team to watch, if I'm being honest. It is. They have a good record, good net, good metrics, but when we go to look at their quad wins, they aren't as impressive as I'd like to see. So I'd like to see them as they go throughout the rest of the season, see how well they play out. I think this week they play
I think you're right. You got Arkansas. I'm sorry. I think you're right because Arkansas and Alabama is right behind them. And both of those teams are playing really well. We could very easily move Arkansas, Alabama up to that 4th seed line. So that is a good team. Who does Virginia play this week?
They play Georgia Tech in Miami, but if you look 2 weeks in advance, they do play at Duke. That would be a really good test for them. But other than that, they don't play anyone worthwhile except NC State, which is also a home game.
Yeah, I think if you win all your games except Duke as Virginia, I think you're pretty comfortable maybe in that 4th seed line, depending on unless Arkansas, Alabama. Alabama's going to be interesting to watch for me because they had that pro kid Bediako for a game. I think they won 3 games, and we have no idea how the committee is going to look at that, right? Are they going to think Alabama's a 4 seed, but keep them at a 5 because they won 3 games with someone who had a court case and all of that stuff. I don't even know how to think about that as a fan, and don't want to throw my 2 cents in, but Alabama right now is either a 4 or a 5 statistically, and I think the committee probably should just look at him because the kid was eligible by court rule when he played, and then he became ineligible, and they didn't play him once he was declared ineligible. So I think you might have to just look at Alabama season as is. Other teams that are – Wisconsin has just rocketed up, beaten Illinois at Illinois and beaten Michigan State like a drum last Friday. So they went from a 10 seed to a 7. That is what I'm talking about on the back end of the bubble. Like a team gets hot and pulls off a win over 2 top 3 seeds, they can move from a 10 to a 7 in a heartbeat because everything is close. So, Logan, we do appreciate having you on. We'll try to figure out your camera stuff so people can see your awesome voice. And as we wrap up, you've been a member of Bracketology for a long time. Share with our listeners and our viewers why you like being part of Bracketology and maybe a memory or two that you'll remember from your 4 years here in Bracketology.
Oh yeah, I first heard about it when I was in middle school from Braden Gleason, a graduate. I always thought it was so cool to look at the bracket and try and figure it out when I was younger, and so being able to do this for the last 4 years has been awesome. Been getting to watch a lot of college basketball and just enjoy every minute of it because time flies when you're having fun. But favorite memory, I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I did really enjoy the Coach T house.
Well, you
meeting.
save that. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, but save that maybe for our next podcast. We're going to have go again every Monday and Thursday. But Logan, thanks for joining. We'll have another senior, Josh Reynolds. We'll have our another sponsor, Steve Painter, and Dave Gilbert on. We may even have a guest from Iowa at some point, our buddy out there in Iowa who's dabbling in some bracketology for the Iowa Hawkeyes. But we'll be on for the next few weeks on Mondays and Thursdays. Time will vary based on when our students are available and when I'm available. Again, our work is on DelphiBracketology.com. You can click on the front page. You can get the latest bracket. You can get the latest seed list. We just updated one this evening with our updated seed list. And please leave us a question on X. Our handle's at Delphi Brackets. We are glad to interact with you as much as possible. We appreciate our followers. They give us a lot of reason to continue to do this. Besides, it's just a lot of fun being around people like Logan and the other guys and gals in our Delphi Bracketology Club. So that'll do it for this episode of Bracket U. Again, DelphiBracketology.com, at Delphi Brackets on the X. Make sure that you follow your team. Always get those road wins. Always get those quad 1 wins. And until Thursday, we'll see you. Happy hoops watching.